Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. Appreciate you making the time to join our webinar. My name is Jeff Murison. I'm the Executive Director of the Blue Ridge Corridor Alliance, as well as the President and CEO of the Hillsborough Street Corporation. This event today is an outgrowth of part of the Blue Ridge Corridor Alliance Tourism Committee that has been meeting over the last year and probably for the last 6 months, really been talking about how are our hospitality, tourism, destination venues gonna pivot and move towards reopening, and what do they see on the front wave of the rest of this year as they move to open and welcome people back and do that in a very thoughtful and engaging and safe manner to create comfort and confidence in the way that they're operating, and to make sure that people feel good about coming back to our destinations. And so we put this webinar together today to let you hear a little bit about what they're doing, about what they're planning for, and have a community conversation about coming back to life. Now that North Carolina is reopening, and we're seeing more and more vaccination, this is a very timely opportunity to hear from some of our community leaders. So appreciate you making the time to join us. I'm going to quickly go through and introduce our panelists. Jeff Merritt is the Executive Director of the Centennial Authority. That's the operator of the PNC Arena. Whitney Knollenberg is an Assistant Professor of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Management at North Carolina State University. Kent Yelverton is the Fair Manager for the the State Fair Division, Director. I'll be all right. Kristie Nystedt is the owner of Raleigh Brewing Company right here on Hillsborough Street. And Nicole Flynn is the marketing representative from Catering Works that just opened in the North Carolina Art Museum. We appreciate all of our panelists taking the time this morning to join us. Welcome. And with that, we'll kick it off with a question to Whitney. Talk to us about the importance of tourism, the tourism economy, how that's been impacted by the pandemic, and why why is it important that we be thoughtful about how we reopen and re-engage the public at our tourist venues.
Sure. Thanks so much, Jeff, and thanks for having me today. Really excited to be here and to hear from Jeff and Nicole and Kent and Kristie. As Jeff said, I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Management at NC State. And my role there is to study tourism and teach tourism. And we actually have one of our alums of the program on the call today. Hey, Hayes, how are you? Nice to see you here. And thanks. So I spend a lot of time thinking about tourism and the impacts that tourism has on communities like those here in Wake County, and specifically those that are represented here with interest in Hillsborough Street and the Blue Ridge Corridor. And we've been obviously seeing over the past course of the year a real range of impacts on the industry, going, of course, from travel restrictions that limited pretty much all travel early on, to an increase in people's interests in travel and comfort in travel as the pandemic has gone on, to the point that we're seeing right now. I've been seeing data from firms such as Destination Analysts and Longwoods International telling us that at this point we're at an all-time high of interest in travel and perceptions of safety in travel. And so I'm starting to feel we're really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel here. People have a lot more optimism with the vaccines coming on so quickly. And we're actually starting to see it. I saw the term the other day, vaxcations, people who once they get their vaccines are ready to go on that vacation. And so I know a lot of our panelists here today represent our local market, but we have so much visitation potentially coming from outside of the county as well. Of course, Jeff with PNC, seeing lots of opportunities for that with events. And Kent, I know we're already looking forward to the State Fair coming up a few months down the pike. And Nicole, with your new operations at the Art Museum, there's a lot of potential for people to continue that interest that they've had, particularly in visitation to places where they can be outside, anywhere that they can feel that they can adequately social distance, and be in a space where they can recreate outside. That has really been the mainstay that we've seen throughout this entire year, is that when people do travel, they're going to look for those spaces outdoors. However, like I said, I think there is a lot of shift towards this wanting to get back to those indoor venues, the entertainment aspect, that people are ready for that. They have missed it, and they've really just been waiting for that excuse to feel a little more confident in their safety in those spaces, which is why I think it's really important for us to have this conversation today, and for us to hear from folks who are finding strategies to ensure that confidence for their guests in those indoor spaces as well. So, I think there's a great mix of folks who have experiences here to talk to us about that. Jeff, is there anything else you'd like me to highlight sort of broader about that before we jump into the panelists?
No, that's excellent. A perfect intro. I think that will let us shift to our other panelists, and we'll sort of go around the room here and share with us a little bit about your venue now that the state is opening up more. What are some of the challenges you're facing, and what are some of the activities that you're doing to get ready to welcome people back and make it a successful second half of the year? Jeff, how about we start with you?
Well, it's a year ago tomorrow morning is when the World Health Organization declared coronavirus a pandemic. But in my world, a year ago tomorrow night was when the Oklahoma City Thunder Jazz game was canceled at the tip-off. The referee had the ball, the players have been introduced, the T-shirts have been shot into the crowd, and thankfully the governor of Oklahoma was at the game that night, had gotten a call from his health director who said one of the Jazz players is tested positive for coronavirus, and the rest is history. So fast forward to last week when we welcomed our first crowd in almost a year, and the experience is quite different. It will be for some time. We're doing our level best, and we have a 129-page handbook, if you will, on how to be safe. If you come to our venue, and I hope you'll get a chance to this year, it will not be anything like you've seen before. And our real challenges are trying to work with the Charlotte Hornets, for example, so that none of us screw this up. We're taking this very, very seriously for not only the public safety, which is everybody's first and foremost attitude when you come to work, is how can we make this a safe place? But if the Hornets mess up and people don't wear masks and the governor's office notices that, then all of us get penalized for that. And so I think there's a big cooperation right now to try to make sure that everybody's maybe overdoing it. I mean, I always want to look back on this thing and say, okay, we did more than we should have. Fine, that's a great, criticize me for that. I'll give you an example. If you come to our games, 25 feet behind the visiting and home players bench, and then 25 feet behind the officials and the penalty box on the other side of the ice, they're plexiglass, and you can't sit anywhere near the players. Is that overkill? Maybe or maybe not. But it's doing the right things. It's spending the time, spending the money to do it. But I think the real challenge for all of us is that these things, while we've been studying them for a year, we have a lot of in this industry. You can talk to your compatriots in other markets and steal their best ideas or hear their sob stories or whatever it is. But all of us are making this up as we go. The plexiglass behind the players, for example, the governor opened up on Wednesday. We kind of get our handbook out and start working on it. And then the NHL says, oh, by the way, you need to find plexiglass 25 feet behind your players. Okay, where do you get that? So it's been a roller coaster. It's been a year that I never want to repeat again. But I think we're going to learn some things from all this that will kind of be good, safe practices for the next 20 years, 40 years maybe. So I'm trying to look at the glasses half full of this, and maybe public safety is going to be one of those things that comes out of it better.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeff. Kent, what are things like at the fairgrounds?
So, Jeff is, and thank you again for having me, and thank you to everyone who is joining us this morning. The fairgrounds, of course, we do self-produce 2 events a year, our Got to Be NC Festival in May and the State Fair in October, as well as we host 500 events a year that are put on by promoters. This year for 21, we have announced that we will not have the Got to Be NC Festival. That's just going to be a little bit too soon. But we do see a clear path to October and the State Fair. We're in full preparation for that. The State Fair works as a destination. We certainly, as people plan their weekends every weekend, we want people to look at what's going on at the fairgrounds and what opportunities we offer. The Raleigh market, our on-site flea market, operates every weekend. They started back in July and have been on a steady growth since then to reestablish. But also the fairgrounds is an economic driver for so many small businesses. The consumer shows that we host are the opportunity for small businesses to get out and market and get in front of customers and potential customers. So we have worked very hard to do what we can through this. We started having events again last June through the retail allowances and the executive orders. As the executive orders have proceeded, we followed those directions. The most recent Executive Order 195 does give us a little bit more capacity. This weekend or this week, we have a large dog show in the Graham building. That show has about 1,400 dogs and their support staffs, as well as we have a lot of campers on grounds. We're able to do that. It's in a very large facility. All of those folks are here as part of the show with no spectators. So we're able to do things like that in a safe manner. We also have a drive-through event this weekend, a laser show out in the parking lot at the corner of Trinity and Blue Ridge. The last 3 weeks, we've had a drive-through dinosaur exhibit that had a very large response. Tells us that people are ready to get out and do things. So we're trying to provide that opportunity where we can. Also this week, we have a cheer competition. We've had a couple of those through the pandemic. It doesn't look the same as it did in the past, but it's providing opportunities for people to get out and do things. So we do see things changing already with the increased numbers that Executive Order 195 gave us. We could tell the cheer people that they could have more family and friends come in and watch that. Things are changing, and we see a path to much more change ahead.
Excellent. Well, you make a really important point about how impactful these events are to the local merchants, right? The businesses in our community. And so that's a perfect segue to Kristie, owner of Raleigh Brewing Company, one of our premier local establishments. What's the environment like at Raleigh Brewing Company these days?
So we had pretty much right away at the when we were closed down. So when they had the stay-at-home orders, we shifted really completely to cans, of course. So we packaged, we're a 20-year production brew house. And we moved all of our production into cans, which is a pretty big shift from a production standpoint. At that point, it was primarily just about keeping my employees safe. So, we had a lot of PPE that PPE, sorry, PPP is another thing, PPE. We had a lot of PPE that we had to obtain quickly. And that was quite a process, those first 30 days, as far as first making sure that our employees stay safe, and then also setting up so that when we can open that tap room again, that we are also maintaining a very safe environment for our customers that are going to be coming in. So you know, my employees have been amazing through this whole thing. I've been able to keep all of them safe throughout this last year, which to me has been, you know, heroic for any company that can do that. And also just goes to our employees that are super, super diligent and, you know, also care a lot about making sure that we're staying, you know, that the company is maintaining. So when we opened, we you know, of course, put all of the tables apart. So we have obviously very, very good distance inside and outdoors, but we really focused on our outdoor space this year. So we have a lot of really good outdoor space. A lot of people are coming. This year is our 8-year anniversary. I'm losing all my words. I apparently did not have enough coffee yet this morning. What were you going to say, Jeff?
I say congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Our 8-year anniversary party would look a lot different if we didn't have the restraints that we have. We normally have over probably close to 3,000 people throughout the day on our parties. This year, we are not even asking people to come to celebrate the specific day because we're already at capacity on a regular basis. So we are bringing music. We are doing a customer appreciation. It looks a lot different than what we normally do. This year we have, we're giving discounts, pretty deep discounts on some of our canned items, just to, you know, kind of promote more, you know, we appreciate what you've done for us this year, and also kind of more of a take home type of a celebration versus a, you know, come and celebrate. We know a lot of people are still very, very cautious. We are having live music, but it's in a very restricted environment, and the capacity is going to be limited, and that's in Friday at our Cary tap room as well as in Raleigh on Saturday throughout the day. But you know, we will have to turn many people away because it's just, we won't be able to keep the people here, but that's fine. We have a lot of really good to-go opportunities, and you know, it's really at this point still about getting vaccinated. All of my team has had their first shot already. So I'm excited about that. Our goal is to be fully vaccinated by the first part of April. So, you know, that is our goal. And we are already seeing a lot of people come in and celebrate their first vaccine shots and that kind of stuff. Obviously, the mask protocol is very much in place, as well as different sanitation spots throughout our tap room. And we will keep those. I mean, I don't really see that we will ever get rid of those sanitation opportunities. You know, there's going to be different things that lift, you know, I'm sure the mask requirement will lift eventually. I feel like people still will wear masks if they want to. And that's, you know, I mean, that's as we move forward, it'll be whatever you're comfortable with. But so far, so good. You know, we were never a place that we are aware of that caused a big concern during this pandemic. We did a lot of things to make sure that we kept our employees and our customers safe. So
wonderful. Thank you. Nicole, you all have done something unique during the pandemic. You've actually opened, you know, a new venue and business. What's it like, you know, starting up? Welcome to the corridor over at the Art Museum. Tell us what's going on there, how you're preparing, and what the next few months look like for you.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, Whitney said it nicely as well earlier. You know, we have such a great outdoor space, you know, that people know, the park. So getting people, you know, to know that the museum exhibit's open inside now, and the restaurants are opening, you know, and supporting our small business, you know, Catering works, you know, in those restaurants, and getting people comfortable inside. But with opening, you know, we've obviously all of the social distancing, mobile ordering. You know, what's nice right now is you don't have to come inside, you know, to visit our restaurant. You can order online and stay in the park and have a picnic. You know, so you can enjoy it inside, but you don't have to, which is good. You know, people have that option. So just staying safe, you know, with mobile ordering, QR code ordering, all of that. Of course, social distance tables. There's a bunch of different areas in the cafe that you can spread out. So you can go into a little family area. So there's definitely options there. But just getting people inside and comfortable with that, and, you know, supporting it.
Terrific. Really, for everybody, how do you think 2021, 2022 will look different, you know, than 2019? You know, obviously everything, you know, will be different than 2020. What do you, you know, what is your organization preparing to do to make the next year, different and unique than in the past? Anyone can jump in.
I can take that just real quick. As far as and basically the biggest thing for me, as we head into 2021, is that we are seeing more a ramp up now as like different event venues are coming up, open, and bars are opening and restaurants are opening. Not maybe more, but more people are feeling more comfortable coming out. That ramp up is much different than any March I've ever experienced before. Typically as you're going into March, there's a lot of momentum as you're just getting out of the winter, and then you're heading into spring, and it looks a lot different as far as how you're approaching that. So from off-premise, so as our sales reps are selling to the different venues, as well as people that are coming on our site. So we are, I don't know if I'm going to be able to clearly explain this, other than that we are managing the growth as it's coming. And it's, and it is a much different, it's coming a lot different this year than it has ever in any other spring. So we are going to open up some of the different things that we've offered before, as far as we have a really great run club. We have a really active cycling club that comes out of here. Both of those things we're not able to formally organize last year. But this year we are already, like, as soon as this weekend, the time is changing. So they're already getting very active, and still with protocols in place, but we are excited to see those folks, coming back and, looking forward to support a healthy habit as far as running and cycling, but then now also doing it more safely. So, yeah.
Excellent. Ken?
Yeah, as I said earlier, we are definitely seeing a pent-up demand. People want activities that they can get out and feel safe doing. Our recent activities have demonstrated that to us. The pace of the return is very much built around public confidence. As people feel safe coming out, the vaccine, of course, is critical. We watch the vaccine numbers to see, and we can see our events and our numbers rise with the number of vaccines. We are also dependent on the individual events that come and what their comfort level is, what their clientele is, who their workers are. In many cases, there will be a slow return just based on what the event is. If it caters to a more at-risk population, it's going to come back a little bit slower. If it caters to a less at-risk population, those things are already starting to come back quicker. So it's based on public confidence, both from stepping out a little bit and then stepping out a little bit more. And we're already starting to see that.
Fascinating. Thank you. Jeff or Nicole?
Yeah, well, I think a big thing at the museum is they had to shut down any incoming leads for booking special events or weddings, and that has now started ramping up again. So we've opened that. You can now book special events or weddings in their spaces, with being able to do it outside for ceremonies. So that's a large, part of what they do there. So it's great that that's open again. People can start celebrating again, and I think people are getting a lot more comfortable doing that, obviously within the guest count regulations, and staying with your pod, as we call it, during the ceremony, during cocktail hour, all of that. So I think people are getting more comfortable, and I know people are going to be excited to be able to book events there. We had a lot of weddings that had to reschedule and weddings that haven't had a chance to book, and so we're excited about that.
Last night was our fourth event since the governor allowed 15% capacity. 3,000 people in a 19,000 seat venue looks awfully puny, but it's something. The crowds are bringing it. They're bringing a lot of noise. I think though that the psychological issue is a big one, because there's not really a whole lot of data to find out if people are feel safe and confident. As Kent said, I think there's different audiences that feel different ways. But one of the challenges that I see going forward is, all right, somebody gives you a ticket to the Hurricanes game, but it's going to be 3,000 people only, can't congregate in the concession or can't congregate on the concourse. We have two things in the concession. We have canned beer and canned soft drinks, and that's it. So do you decide, I'm just going to wait this out? I mean, I'm a huge college football fan, never miss a game. I got offered several times to go to games this fall. I just didn't want to do it. It wasn't a personal safety issue. It was just, there's 500 people in a 20,000 seat venue just is depressing. So the psychological uptick is going to come, I think, when, as Kent said, the vaccines start to really promulgate and people feel safer. But I think there's going to be a certain audience that just waits till 100%. And to that, 21 and 22 particularly, are going to be boom years. If you can think of an act, a musical act, they will tour and they will probably be somewhere in the triangle. So the good problem we're going to have in 2022 is finding dates for all of those. Now, then so the yin and the yang of it is, all right, how much disposable income do we all have to see concerts and go to the art museum and go to State Fair? I mean, there's, maybe that's a good problem to have. It certainly is based on the last year of zero income. But that's a challenge I'll take every day. But I think the psychology is still in question as to when people are going to come indoors. Outdoors, I think, will happen a lot quicker for obvious reasons.
Whitney, is there are there sources of data on public perception on that, national, state, local? What kind of research is there?
Yeah, great question, Jeff. I think that this is one of those things that with it being a moving target and we're seeing so many changes, week by week here in North Carolina, that I have not seen a state level examination of this that I can speak to specifically. And so that's why I think events like this are really helpful to let people like Jeff and Kent and Kristie and Nicole talk about what it looks like on the ground. Because aside from, what we're seeing with sort of long-term planning, I'm not familiar right now with any data that shows what those variables are that Jeff's talking about. What is the capacity level that people feel comfortable, but also want to be a part of. So that's, Jeff, I think that's a really good point of, it's not just safety that people are thinking about, it's the experience itself. And does it really feel like going to a Hurricanes game if you're not a part of that crowd? So I think that's going to be an opportunity for all of the venues, for all of the, the booking agents, the people who are making these experiences happen, is, there needs to be a lot of communication about what that experience looks like and what to expect. And yes, it might not be the same, but what are the benefits that could come with being part of, a lesser capacity crowd, doing something outside? Nicole, what you were talking about with the weddings and, these smaller events, immediately for me gets to thinking about, well, how do we sell this as an opportunity, a once in a lifetime sort of way of doing this, especially if you have great venues, you have great space, like, can you offer different, experiences within that still obviously adhere to safety, but gives people something different than they might have at a regular capacity.
Yeah, if I can add a couple of things to that, it is very much about the experience. We have events that simply choose not to proceed because of their brand. They choose that they cannot put on an event now that they want their brand associated with. They feel like they're better off to wait until they can do more of an event. Also, that obviously comes into finances, both for the venue as well as those promoters. They may be able to do something, but they have to make a secondary decision of whether it makes sense for them to do that. Mm-hmm. And as we go into later 21 and into 22, we'll see those numbers make more sense. We'll see people able to put on events that they're proud to put their brand on.
Kent, that's a great point, because for example, with 3,000 people at a Hurricanes game, we're still losing money. There's no question about that. It's just that it's better than zero, right? But for a touring act, and let me back up, because we can scale our part-time employees to fit the crowd. For example, if I've got 20,000 people for Metallica, there's 850 people part-time working that event. If I've got 6,000 people for Sesame Street, oh, not, it's, you know, it's more like 150 people. So when we have 3,000 in the building, we still probably overstaff a little bit because we need more people walking around making sure people aren't congregating in the concourses, things like that. But if I'm touring, if I'm Rage Against the Machine, it still costs $800,000 to move the show, put the show on. I got to pay the same amount of staff. Why would I do that when I've only got 5,000 people in the audience? Because I can't make them pay $1,500 a ticket. That's not going to happen either. So it's really dependent on the event as to what their level of comfort is with downsizing their crowd expectations versus some of these acts haven't made a nickel in a year. And I won't bore you with the trends, but no one is buying music anymore to make these artists wealthy. It's their merchandise and their touring that bring the bottom line to them. So not touring was a better option for them than touring with a severely limited capacity. If that makes sense.
And we've seen promoters and organizations do events that I feel like they were putting themselves at risk because they were determined to go forward and make something happen. And that's not always the best decision.
Right.
You have to look at the numbers.
Right.
You all had the Dinosaur event the last 2 weeks. How was attendance for that? What was that experience like?
So they were here for 18 days and they saw a little over 29,000 cars in that 18 days. Many days were sellouts. Just a great response to that event.
Very cool.
And that was all drive-through though, right? Wasn't that all?
It was.
Drive, yeah,
Yes.
which is perfect. Yeah.
And that's something for our type venue that we're going to see going forward. Are people still going to have an interest in the drive-through event as we're perfecting this new way of doing things? As things change and we can go back indoors, will that go away again, or have we created something new that will continue to have a life in the future?
Excellent. Well, we're blessed with a lot of venues in West Raleigh, right, and on our part of the city, and great parks and greenways and connectivity, and so tying that all together is leveraging that is a mission of the Blue Ridge Corridor Alliance, and bringing that together, bringing those assets together is really the focus of the tourism committee and how we got here today. I think the one of the questions about that data and the public's sentiment about how they feel and their comfort factor is a question we've talked a lot about, which is why we'll be releasing a public survey to ask folks about their feelings about returning to venues, what kind of factors are going to motivate them or help them make those decisions, what things they'll be comfortable with. And hopefully that'll give us a peek into how people feel about returning to sort of normal day-to-day activities. So we look forward to sharing that with you all to help get that out to the public and then seeing the results and working with NC State to sort of help us analyze those results. Whitney's got great students and that we've had as interns, and looking at that data would be very interesting to help us. What kind of what should folks expect when they come to your venues over the next 6 months? What kind of experience? What things would be different? Is there things that they should know as they approach to have a good experience, not be surprised, and have a great time while they're there?
I'll jump in. It's all cashless now, and there's no paper. So that revolution was happening anyway. I think you've probably read a lot of accounts over the last year about, and I can't remember the term, where something that was going to happen 5 years from now happens 6 months from now because of necessity. So one of the things that fans are going to see is that you'll come in the building, you'll need to be screened, and you'll need to be admitted. The ticket is one thing, but the health check is another. but there's just no way around it. We're having to adapt to making fans and our staff feel safer with a ticketless, cashless experience. The other thing to keep in mind too is that raucous. One of the things that I love about Hurricanes games, and I've been to a bunch of other NHL buildings too, is that it's loud. It's designed to get you to jump up and scream and yell and your kids to sing and all that. We're not doing that now. We have no cheerleaders. We have some music between the, when there's a timeout or some kind of break in the action, but we're not shooting t-shirts into the crowd. We're not giving things away. It's just a game. So you got to expect that. And then sort of the last thing I would tell you is the supply chain is severely messed up right now. For example, if you want a 10,000 hot dogs, good luck. I'm trying to get it. Potatoes, just the entire system is sort of, got a little rusty because there was no demand for it. And now they're kicking that rust out as the gears start to turn slowly toward reopening. So fans are going to have to put up with much less choices for probably a long time. I mean, I'm very hopeful that we make a Stanley Cup run this year. That would end on the evening of the 15th of July. So go ahead and buy your tickets now. But I don't even know that we'll have any more food or beverage options by the time we get to July as we do now, even if the governor ramps things up. I mean, I feel like we will. But again, there's some processing plants, there's some trucking companies, there's a lot of things that just don't have the staff or the capacity in their facility to make everything work just like that.
Thanks for sharing that. Any other?
I think Jeff makes a good point. One of the things that this will depend on is the input of the public that visits and their tolerance and their understanding that we are in a different day and don't expect exactly the same experience when you come, but we're working hard to give you the best experience we can within what we have available to us. I think the carry forwards of what we're learning now was mentioned earlier. That's critical. We will do things in the future better because of the things that we've learned in getting through this. We've been fortunate at the fairgrounds through CARES Act money to put in bipolar ionization in all of our employee and public buildings. That's something that we're able to tell the public that we were proactive in putting that in, and it will still be here when the pandemic's over, and it will provide a level of protection for seasonal flu and other viruses. But it's what we try to do is educate, as others do. I know Jeff does, try to educate people before they get to the property about expectations, ours and theirs. We do expect people to follow the guidance that they're given, both for their own protection as well as the safety and comfort of those others that are attending with them. So cooperation, tolerance, getting through this together.
Yeah, agreed. And then also I would just echo that as far as what Jeff said, we're doing a lot of paperless stuff right now as well. We have a QR code that we've been talking about for a couple of years that we finally actually activated, and it's on the tables. A lot of people prefer that. We have paperless payment now. We do not have bar seats at the bar still. We will not do that until at least at the minimum our employees are fully vaccinated, and we're probably going to wait even a couple months after that. But we will continue to there's like a contradiction as far as we want to keep up the plastic sheathing just because we think in general it's probably best, we think it's probably a good solution long term for when you're coming up to order. But then if you have people at the bar, you're kind of still putting your potential bartenders at even non-COVID related risks. But we will go ahead and put the bar stools back up at the bar eventually, but that's been a pretty big point of contention. Other than that, we have a really good space. So we've got a lot of spacing in between, and so far everybody's felt really safe. So that's we'll continue to do that as well. But paperless and contactless has been the big thing.
Yeah. I agree with what, everyone has said. It's the contactless ordering. At the museum, they did extend the exhibit length of time. It's usually a lot shorter. So we have extended that, which helps because with having such a smaller capacity, obviously we're selling out a lot faster. So that helps. We've got a lot more time. You can still come and visit. So as everyone has said, be patient. Patience is, key. But order those tickets ahead of time, so that you can plan and be prepared and know that you can get in. But yeah, online ordering, cashless, the usual.
Whitney, it sounds like one of the things that students, might be learning over the next few years is the importance of being flexible and adapting and constantly learning and innovating, that this major industry isn't stagnant, that it's constantly evolving. Is that part of an emerging portfolio of education preparation for tomorrow's workforce?
Yeah, Jeff, you must have been on my previous Zoom call this morning, because that's exactly what we were talking about. Actually, it was a call with Wake County Schools. I was talking with them about how they're preparing high school students for careers in hospitality and marketing. And one of the things I noted to them was, we still don't know the full gravity of the impact of the pandemic on our industries. But what we have learned is that this is something that we need to anticipate. There could be levels of impact like this in the future. It might not be a pandemic, it might be something else, but preparing our future leaders of this industry to be tapped into a network that they can draw from to be able to respond to this, to know where to look for information and how to read briefings from the CDC or from the State Department or whatever it may be, to interpret that for an individual business. I think it's really important for organizations like the Blue Ridge Corridor Alliance to maintain resources and spaces for not only business owners, but also the guests and visitors of those businesses of what to expect and how to communicate in these circumstances. It's going to be a responsibility not just of the individual operations, but the community as a whole, to think about how to be agile and how to be all on the same page. Kristie, I think it was you who just said, we're all in this together, figuring this out. I hope that's something that we take away from this, is that, we're all dependent on each other's ability to address these kind of situations. And we have to continue to maintain that communication and support for each other, even after this ends, because, that's the way life works. There's always gonna be something next, and we have to be on our toes and ready to go for it. We all, of course, hope that it's not this level of impact, but to always be prepared for that and be thinking long-term. It's easy to get that short-term thinking in the weeds, but this showed us this is really important to have everything ready to respond when it happens, because it teaches us that you can't expect to have that come together in the moment at that time when you need it. You need to long-term think about how to plan for these things.
And you're bringing up a great point. Communication is probably one of the things that if I was talking to a young person today about this industry, it's read more and steal more ideas. I think one of the things that PNC Arena has always done, at least while I've been here, and I know that Dave Olson and Larry Perkins and some others that have been here well before me, always will take a call from another arena about what we're doing, what they're doing. Unfortunately, it usually happens after there's some big event. The shootings and bombings in Paris and Manchester, started those kind of conversations. But I really see a renaissance in people sharing ideas. Kristie, you're probably not going to share the ingredients of Moravian Rhapsody with your colleagues or competitors, but maybe you will share how we're protecting our bartenders, how we're letting people in, how we're doing a concert to celebrate our anniversary. Those kind of conversations have got to ramp up, because as Whitney said, a pandemic may or may not ever come, but there's always going to be something that you didn't see. Terrorist activities have always been in the back of people's minds, but until the Ariana Grande concert guy, waited with the parents for the kids to come out of the show with a bomb strapped to his back, no one thought somebody would do that, and now we have to think like that. So that's why you see these dogs. Those are not looking for your stash or your airplane bottle. They're looking for chemicals that shouldn't have been mixed together. And so, you know, again, sharing all that, arenas and public performing arts centers, whatever. I can guarantee you the email traffic and phone traffic has quadrupled since the pandemic began. Sharing ideas.
And I think that experience exists at all levels, where the Alliance is part of a very robust network of economic development organizations in Raleigh, led by the city's Economic Development Office. And we've had lots of communications before this, but the pandemic really brought that group together to have web-based meetings twice a week, sharing information, supporting each other, partnering on webinars, and, you know, helping lift each other up. And so I think that's probably a pretty consistent learning throughout, you know, a lot of industries.
Yeah, I mean, the unsung heroes were definitely, you know, NCRLA, the North Carolina Restaurant Lodging Association, and then also North Carolina Brewers Guild were amazing, just like really from the very beginning, and still very amazing as far as the amount of information they accumulate in one space, the amount of conversations and political, you know, wherewithal that they have, and that they've been able to kind of get through some conversations that as an individual brewer or an individual restaurant, you know, that wouldn't go nearly as far. So it's been amazing having those.
Our local tourism bureau has been, you know, really helpful in uniting the community, sharing information, and also getting a sense of what the recovery looks like, and providing us with new tools to help market it. We've got a lot of new video and media products that they've shared. So we're coming up to the end here. I certainly want to open up and share with our viewers. If you have a question, by all means, put it in the chat box, and we'll be happy to ask that on your behalf and share that with our panelists. I want to also, again, you know, remind everyone that we will be releasing this public survey. It's anonymous, it's casual, but it asks questions about what the public's interest and thresholds are for safety and re-engaging with our venues. We do have an incentive there. You can fill out the survey and then add your email to be entered into a drawing. The Hillsborough Street Corporation has a new Hillsborough Street gift card, and so we've donated. I think we've donated a whole bunch to the cause, and we'll do a drawing at the end, so that can incentivize filling out the survey and also helps our local merchants. Let's see. We have a question from actually our council member David Knight. What types of incentives to get folks back safely, you know, to public events? Are there any activities that you're doing to welcome and incentivize folks to come back, but to do it safely? And we certainly want to take a moment and thank both Councilmember Knight and Councilmember Fort for joining us today. We appreciate their support for our community and interest in this topic.
I'll jump in. One of the things that PNC Arena has always prided itself on is having a friendly and helpful staff. So the first thing that I want you to see when you come to my building, whether it's pandemic or not, is somebody that welcomes you and generally means it. So a lot of our folks have been here since we opened in 1999. I saw some people last night I hadn't seen in a year, but who I would have seen every single night for 20 years that I've been here before. But I think in terms of incentivizing, it's making sure we communicate, as we've said before, with what we're doing to try to make you safe and keep you healthy. But number two, what is it that we're doing to make things easier? Give you an example right now. Your parking payment is embedded in your ticket right now. So there is no person to stop and give cash to or a credit card to. We're hoping I'm hoping that sticks around. I don't know if it will, but it's making it easier, making you feel like you're welcomed back. We've missed you. That sounds like a cliche because everybody in the hospitality industry, is what they tell their staff, just that. And if you got a bad attitude, you're not going to make it in this industry. But what I've seen last night particularly is, our staff is just as enthusiastic about seeing you as you are of them. And I want to bottle that, because I want that to remain PNC Arena's hallmark for the next 20 years.
Yeah, I know when I go to the arena, you see the same ushers year in, year out, in your same section. It's like revisiting old friends.
Yeah, it really is.
As we finish up, also, any teasers for big events or additions to to come in second half of this year or next? What's on the horizon? Not necessarily making news, but can you tease the public?
Let me go first there, Jeff. We are going to have an event in October. I see a clear path to that. We are planning it in a way that it can scale up or down as we get closer and we see what things will look like at that point. We certainly know there will be differences, but we anticipate if things continue as they are now and we continue to get a larger number of vaccinated and citizens, we believe it could be a very big year in October, and that's really what we're preparing for is a large crowd. The teaser, as I said, in May we have canceled our Got to PNC Festival, which is the weekend before Memorial Day, but stay in touch. There might be something else that weekend.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, what I can tell you in the fall, we do plan a big Oktoberfest event here at Raleigh Brewing, and we're not sure if we'll have to cap it this year. We anticipate we'll have to cap it to some degree, but we are, that is one event we have not canceled. So that is still happening. And then also, just to remind everybody, this week, with our 8-year anniversary, we are giving, because of all of the appreciation we've received from our customers throughout the last year, we are giving pretty significant discounts, like it is for pickup. So it's a 20% per case discount on our beer. So, and that is to go, still obviously making people feel comfortable there, but it is also incenting people to come out so they can see how safe it is in our tap room. And then that would be to go. But in the future, we hope that they'll come back and hang out.
We got a question. It looks like Heather Strickland, I believe from Raleigh
Little Theater,
Raleigh Little Theater, excuse me, another one of our great assets, destinations. Are any of you working with other partners within your industries about shared consistent messaging about how you're reopening, or guidelines, about broadly, making awareness for opening and being safe? I guess to some degree, the Count on Me NC program that the Tourism Bureau led was an example of that for the whole community.
Jeff spoke to that earlier in his industry. In our industry, in the fair industry, similar venues, we have a very strong organization that we're a member of, a lot of information available, a lot of personal contacts between folks that we know within the industry to talk about what we're doing, but also opportunities like this to talk with our local partners about what is going on in the community as well. So both based on a venue type as well as based on our location. It's great to talk about others about what we're experiencing.
Cameron Laws from Artsplosion shared that they're planning the Artsplosion event on October 9th and 10th, and are looking forward to producing that and welcoming people back and to a safe and fun community event. And so I think there's a lot of that kind of activity on the horizon, and we're all preparing to do that in a safe and thoughtful way that build confidence and welcome people back into our community. And
Jeff, I want to chime in there on the previous question. As I kind of said, looking on the horizon, you're gonna get your choice of musical acts over the next probably 36 months. One of the cool things about when we have an act here is I can look at I call it the heat map, but that's not what it's called, of the zip codes that buy tickets for events, and see where people are. Now you got to throw out, there's always some bot somewhere buying 400 or 500 tickets that they immediately put on the secondary market, but you can cut through that chaff and see. And one of the great things about Raleigh and Wake County and where we're located and things like that is that when we have a big event, you will see people from Kentucky and Tennessee. We had a couple came here for the McCartney show from Alaska. And I think we found out that they wanted to come to North Carolina. So when we reopen, one of the great things is you're going to see these people coming from everywhere to see a show in Raleigh, Wake County, and they want to know what else there is to do here. And the internet has made that, super easy for people. But it's fascinating to me that somebody would choose to drive 6, 8, 10, 12 hours to come here. And the concert is not their primary reason for coming. They decided they wanted to see other things here. So kudos to the CVB for making that happen, because it allows you to then stay an extra night, which I always love, because hospitality taxes fund a lot of things what we do here. But that is going to come roaring back. We're going to play outdoor hockey again. That event would have been 2 weeks ago. We're going to do that again. It's just trying to find the calendar. There's only 365 of them to choose from, and Christmas Day's probably not one of them. So,
well, that's a great entry point to end with a teaser of our own. Thanks to the City of Raleigh, the Alliance got a grant to upgrade its website and add a directory of public art and public activation venues of places like all of yours, where there's art and artistic expression and public art. And so we'll be adding this interactive a destination archive, essentially, to help folks navigate and find their way around our community, and see that if they're going to one venue, there's lots of other places and things to do in our community. And so we, of course, thank the city for that financial support and that opportunity. Well, this has been fabulous. Thank you all for your time. Thanks to all of our guests who joined us, and I hope it was a good experience. You learned something, and I want to thank our panelists for taking the time out today to be part of this program, and hopefully share with the community how we're preparing to be welcoming and safe and ready for business through the rest of the year. So thanks again, and have a wonderful day.